Hey guys, what's up? It's Brittany here, back with an audio episode of the Boutique Business with Lady Strong Fitness podcast. And on our second episode of our series of successful habits of fitness studio owners, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about starting small and taking it all.
The Boutique Business Podcast is designed to teach you the secrets to building a business of your own from the ground up so that you can step back and realize that you finally got a business that operates and grows with and without you. As the co-founder of a boutique fitness studio called Lady Strong Fitness, the host, Brittany will share with you strategies from the trenches of fitness studio ownership that will help you ignite your business, in turn driving growth and prosperity in all areas of your studio. You'll hear the successes, the failures, and all the stumbles along the way so that you can fast forward through the hard stuff of fit biz ownership and get to the good stuff faster. This is the Boutique Business with Lady Strong Fitness podcast.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Brittany back with another episode of the Boutique Business with Lady Strong Fitness podcast. And I did not have time to shoot a video last week, and so I'm just doing audio this week, so I hope you guys don't mind. But today's episode is all about a tagline or a quote that we learned a long time ago from a mentor, and it's start small and take it all. So today I'm going to talk about what that means and what that meant to us and what that could potentially mean to you, whether you're looking to open your first location, maybe you're in your first location, have been open for 6 to 8 months and you're still growing. Start small and take it all was something that we really believed in early on in owning our fitness studio. And what I mean by that is start everything small. Okay, class schedule, staff, equipment, space, all those things. So I want to break down each of the things that I believe that Marciea and I believe that you should start small on before you actually go big, because sometimes going too big too soon can make things worse off than you want it to be. So let's talk about class schedules, for example. So something that I see happen often and a lot of studio owners fall victim to, in my opinion, is having to give away all these different class options right away. Like, we've got to have 40 classes on the schedule when we open. And in my opinion, I don't think that's necessary unless you're pre-saling and you're opening with 300 members. But I believe that post-pandemic, a lot of pre-sale studios are opening with maybe 80 to 100 to 150 members, and having a 40 class schedule starting out isn't necessary. Maybe you have 10, maybe you have 15, maybe you have 8, maybe you're only open a couple days a week. Find something that's going to work for your demographic and your population, and look at the number of members that you're starting your studio with, and don't base your schedule off of a studio that's mature 5 years down the road. Base it off of where you are right now, and always know that you can add classes before and after the ones that you start with on the schedule. Once you start to see those classes fill up and have wait lists consistently, and by wait lists I mean like people sitting on a wait list after classes started because they couldn't get in, then you start to look at adding classes before or after that time, depending on your demographic, your area, things like that. But don't go all out when you first start, because if you have all these classes on a schedule, what happens is you have 1 or 2 people in every class, and you're paying a trainer to coach 1 or 2 people when it's technically like a personal training session and not really a group class, or you're having to cancel classes consistently because nobody is showing up for them. So start small with your class schedules and then grow into a bigger class schedule as your membership base grows, because that will help with payroll. It will also help with your member experience because you're not canceling classes, and who wants to come to a class with 1 or 2 people in it? That's boring. All right, next up, I want to talk about staffing. Right? So if you're a studio owner and you're just getting started, sometimes we have the notion or the idea that we have to start with a completely full staff. We have to start with a studio manager, a head coach, trainers, everything. We've got a full payroll, and we're barely even making any money when we open the doors. That can be a recipe for disaster, because if you don't start making money fast enough, or you don't have the funds to keep things going until you get to a break-even point where the money coming in is equal to or more than the money coming out, you may have to either cut people's pay, fire people altogether, which can be really, really difficult. So my recommendation, and something that Marciea and I did for quite a while, was we taught a lot of the classes. We did a lot of the day-to-day, the front desk stuff, the sales, the lead follow-up, all that stuff. And once we got to a point where we could, bring on one coach, two coaches, we did. We grew very slowly, and we added staff very slowly because we didn't want to overextend ourselves when it came to payroll, because payroll is one of the biggest expenses next to rent typically in a studio. So making sure that you're not bringing on a full staff right away, unless you have the means to do so. If you have the financial means and the capital to do so, then by all means. But for us, we started out as our own brand. We started out as our own brick and mortar. We didn't have a ton of capital to work with. So we really had to grow slowly when it came to staffing. So just keep in mind as you start out, or you're getting started, or maybe you're 6 or 8 months down the road and you're still kind of struggling, take a look at your payroll. Are there jobs that people are doing on your payroll that you could take back yourself, put that money back into your business or your pocket, and then as you grow, bring those positions back in? Okay, so that's number 2 is staffing. Number 3 is equipment. I know there's great options out there for financing and leasing equipment and things like that, but I'm big on, again, starting small with what you have, or a small, equipment list, and then growing it as your membership and as your money grows. Being a single location studio owner that doesn't have a ton of capital, we understand that it does take money and time to really grow your equipment base. And you do that, and you can do that well with taking on as little debt as possible if you wait until the revenue starts to grow in your business, and you can start to reinvest that money back into your gym, into equipment, into upgrades, all those things. So as your revenue grows, you can take that profit, that additional profit every month, and put that back into your business, especially when it comes to upgrading equipment and any other updates that you may want to make to your studio as you go. Okay, and the last thing I want to mention is a space. I've talked to people, and even us, is like, when we first looked at our space, it was small. It was really small. It was less than 1,000 square feet, but we only had 25 members at the time when we opened. It would have made no sense for us to get a 3,000 square foot space with 25 members and then be so worried about growing into that space. We started really small, and we expanded into a different location as we got bigger. Now, if you plan on growing quickly in the next, 6 or 8 months, then yeah, maybe you want to look at a 2,500 square foot space or an 1,800 square foot space. But if you're really just getting started, it's important for you to understand what you're able to afford now, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where your back is against the wall and you're super stressed about growing your membership base fast enough to make up for expenses. Now, some people do have franchise requirements if you are getting into that, so obviously that makes the situation a lot different. This is very situational, but if I were to do it all over again, I would definitely do the same thing that we did. Start with a small space, potentially in a retail strip mall where there's empty, vacant locations that maybe we could potentially move into another location or bigger location. Or if there's open locations around the area, you could move into something bigger. But, just be cautious about getting your space, right? Be very cautious about getting your space. Know where you're at, know the capital that you have to work with, and your timelines for things, for hitting deadlines and hitting targets, so that you can make sure that your revenue growth will be able to catch up with the expenses that you are incurring as you open your studio. And I want to just end this podcast with a couple notes. When I think about start small and take it all, I think about squeezing all the juice out of the lemon that you possibly can before you do something else. Make sure you squeeze all the juice out of all of the juice out of your schedule, out of your staff, out of yourself, out of your equipment, out of your space before you start adding on more debt, because you want to make sure that your revenue keeps up with the expenses that you're bringing in, right? Now, there are some times where it's okay for your expenses to be a little bit higher because like, for example, for staffing, if you're going to hire a salesperson, it's okay to go a little bit above your payroll budget to bring in a salesperson, knowing full well that the job of that salesperson is to bring you in more revenue, right? So those are situations where it might be okay to bring in, somebody else to actually help you make more revenue. And also, don't fix a problem before it's a problem. A lot of times people get nervous with their schedules because they're like, with everything, with staff, with schedules, with equipment, all that stuff, they get nervous and go, there's just not enough class options, or I know I'm gonna need more trainers, or there's just not enough equipment. If it's not a problem yet, don't solve the problem before it's a problem. get to a point where it is becoming a problem, but it's not losing you members, but you're starting to see a little bit of pressure from it, and then do something about it. Don't solve it before it becomes a problem, because if you do that, you're working a little bit backwards, okay? And as always, guys, these are just things that Marciea and I have learned in the last 5 years of having Lady Strong, and the 2 gyms that we had prior to that, just things that we've learned along the way that I want to really make sure I share with you guys and be fully transparent about, because I think it's important for you guys to understand that you aren't alone in the decisions that you're making. And if there are things that you're questioning, I really hope this podcast helps you go one way or the other. So with that being said, guys, I hope you have an awesome day, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or whatever your favorite place is to listen to podcasts. And if you really liked this episode, please leave a review for us on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.